Hi, I'm Todd Nauck. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today is part 3 of this Captain America commission that I've been working on. Today is the Copic Marker color video. So I'll be sharing not only the colors that I'm using, but some of the tips and tricks of how I apply my marker color to my illustrations. Hopefully it'll help you out with your marker illustrations. So let's flip this camera around and let's get to coloring. Okay, so here's the illustration. Now this was drawn on a 9" by 12" piece of Canson Recycled Bristol board. And if you haven't seen the penciling and inking videos, those are parts 1 and 2. But let's just jump right in here to the colors. So we'll start with Cap's skin tones. So I'm going to use E00 here as the base color for his skin tone. Like to leave the tip of the nose white, leave that open for kind of like a highlight, a little bit there on the chin as well, just by leaving the white of the board available for any place that I want a white highlight or the potential of a white highlight. Just doing a little second coat here. Just for a little more vibrancy. I'm going to come in with a secondary color, some E01. Right through there. It's not quite my shadow color, but it kind of does allow me to have some darker areas. I will be coming in with some gray tones after I lay down all the main colors to drop in some what I would refer to as more realistic shadows. I'm going to add a little R11 to his nose here. Kind of rosy it up a little bit, give a little life to his nose there, a little bit here on the bottom lip, a little bit here on the chin. Maybe a little right up there by the eyes, just to bring some life to the face. A little bit of R00, very, very light shade of pink, and just kind of blending it all together. And that's it for the skin tone there. That's pretty quick, pretty easy. So, sorry, I see a little graphite there. Just want to rub that out. So let's go for the blue of his uniform. So I just want to test out a color here first. Do I want to go with the B04 or do I want to go with the B14? Might end up using a little bit of both. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to start with the B04 for now and then maybe come in with some B14. So sometimes when I'm not quite certain what color I want to use, I will do a little test sheet to try out some colors just to see what color do I want to go with? What's my best choice? And sometimes it helps for me to think through the problem, through the puzzle, by just putting some ink down on a scratch sheet of paper before committing. So I'm leaving the top of his head, leaving some open spot there for a highlight to come in later on. Same right there with his cheek. So I'm pretty much assuming the light source is coming straight from above. So I just think about where the light would hit, what parts would hit, and then that's where I'd leave white for either the highlight or to come in with lighter colors. I'll definitely be coming in with a lighter shade of this B0 family, probably the B02 to follow. All right, now with his chainmail, just going to put the color on the bottom side of each diamond shape here. I'll be coming back to blend with a lighter shade of blue momentarily. So this is helping me achieve that scale mail, chainmail effect. I guess not really chainmail. Scale mail? The scales on his armored shirt. So you see I'm just putting on the diamond shape, it's just the using the brush tip, which is this is great for because it can really create a nice organic shape. Just pushing down, pulling away, and it's creating that little shadow shape, little color shape right inside the scale, but leaving some white in there for whether it be the highlight or a lighter color to come in to blend together. So it's just going through each little diamond. Now places where there'd be a heavier shadow, like in that armpit, there's pretty much no light getting in there, so I'm going to just fill that all in blue. And then as we move towards the light source, it just starts to break up more and more. Can still drop in some little tiny dots of this B04. As we're starting to get that chainmail effect, texture and effect going. More colors to come, but right now I want to use the same blue for his pants. Again, always keeping in mind, if the light's coming from above, where would the light be hitting? And where would there be heavier shadow? I'm just going to put more color in those places. And it's just going to, this is just a half figure commission, so the legs kind of just, the color just kind of trails off. Maybe like he's standing in a mist or something like that. Knowing where the leg muscles are, even though I didn't pencil them in, I can color and shape them out as I wish. Even though I didn't use ink lines. Looks like I'm going to need to refill this B04 before I go to my next illustration. But fortunately we had enough to get through this part. I'm going to come in with a little bit of a darker shade, a little B05, just for some select areas. Just kind of hitting some of the places I went just a little darker. anywhere either further from the light or something's overlapping and blocking the light. There we go. Now you saw a little bit of the blue came there into his mask. I'm going to take some E000 here, the lightest shade of my E family. And I can just go over that little tiny blue part. It's a very light shade of E. And the ink starts to break it up. Just kind of broke it away there. Because these inks are made to blend. So I just kind of blended it out with a very, very light shade. The lightest shade of the E family that I have. Alright, so now I'm going to use the B02. Still in that B0 family of markers. I'm going to blend from that B04 and 5 deeper into the white areas. To start to fill in more of the blue. So we can still see the B4 through there, but we're also this blue B02 kind of helps fill everything out a bit more. Continuing that diamond pattern a little further up there, so it's a little more, we're only really getting the highlights, the reflections, that reflective effect as we move towards the top of his shoulders instead. Now for here for his pants. Pants aren't going to be quite as shiny or reflective as his armor. So we're going to fill in a lot of this with this B02. Just blend it all together. Like I said before, these inks are made to blend. And they blend really nicely. Had to put a little stopper there on my drafting board, stop that rattling. Got a little guard on here that I can lift up so that paper doesn't slide off. My artboard doesn't slide off my desk. But the screw is a little loose and I have not taken the time to get a screwdriver to tighten that up. So I wedge a piece of rolled up Post-it note in that spot. So we don't have that rattle, that rattle sound we were hearing just a second ago. All right, so I've got the blues going. Gonna come back with this B05. Just want to darken up some of these plates for a little more contrast. So just doing that same technique again. Just bringing a little more vibrancy back to some of these. Don't have to do every single one. Don't have to make every one the same exact, fill each one out the exact same amount. I can pick and choose. Now for some B01. Very light shade of this B0 family. Fill out a little bit more of that as we move towards the light source there. Right here on this outer edge of his thigh and through the center. So I can use this light color over all those other shades of blue to really blend everything together. That's how I like to blend my colors, is by using the lightest shade to go over all the colors to blend them all together. I know there's the colorless blender tool, marker tool, which I like to use for certain effects, but I don't like to use it to blend all my colors. I like to use the lightest shade because I feel it gives a more consistent and vibrant blending. Not to say I don't use the colorless blender tool. I actually just use it for certain effects. And maybe someday I'll do a video showing some of the effects that I would use the colorless blender marker for. So it's still a good tool to have. I just don't use it to blend all my colors together. I tried it once before, didn't care for the results. Not saying that's a bad thing, just saying my preference. So now some B000. Gonna add some blue to the white parts of his costume, like his star here. And since I know that's the center of his pecs there, I'm gonna separate the two. Shadow on this side of the pecs, since this one's more in the foreground. Blend a little into the A and onto his wings. Into his arms here. Whatever is furthest away from the light is going to get that blue. Let's see, and then with his midriff stripes, I know the middle one is red, so this one would be white. And this one would be white. And the other two would be red. Let's see, let's go ahead and we'll add some white or some color to his shield. So since I established this kind of reflection, I'm going to use this blue to continue that reflection. Same in the star. All right, that'll work for now. And then let's just continue to, actually we'll go to the reds. Actually, before I go to the reds, I want to color his eyes. So I'm going to use some B12 to give him his blue eyes. And now for the reds. I'm going to use one of my favorite reds, the R27. Still leaving some white of the board for some other lighter shades to come in to sculpt it. So I'm pretty much putting this base red and the majority of cap on the side furthest away from the light. And for the center stripe, leaving a little white there for that wrinkle. Then his shield covers up much of him over here. So now we'll add some red to the shield, same R2 7. So it's just filling in all the way around. Well, not quite all the way around. And you'll see what I mean as I get towards the other side. Leaving a little strip down here at the bottom as like a reflected light. A little reflected highlight bouncing up from the ground. So it just gives a sense of the edge of his shield. And leaving some white here for a really bright highlight on his shield. Just a little more here. All right, so that takes care of that base shade of red. Gonna come in with some R24. Lighter shade of red in the same R2 family. Don't really want a white highlight here either. So I'm just going to fill it in with red, maybe another lighter color. Now a little bit of orange, just a teeny tiny bit of YR68. To fill in all those little white gaps and then blend everything together. I like to use orange because I like for the highlight in the red, because I like the vibrancy that it can give. And we'll just pull some of this orange through his stripes as well. Maybe a little here through this reflective part of the shield. All right, now I need to add some blue to his shield, so we're going to use the B05. Leaving a chunk right there for some B02. Use the same B02 in this part right down here. Okay. Now for his pouches, I'm going to go with some browns. So I'm going to use some E34. Going to lighten that up with some E31. Going to go back to that B000 and use that for his belt buckle. So I'm just using some right through here and right through there. So highlight hitting the top, reflected light hitting the bottom. All right, now I'm going to come in with some grays for some of that, what I like to call quote unquote realistic shading. So I'm starting with some cool gray 1 for his skin tone, very light shade of cool gray. I'm just going to sculpt his face with shadow anywhere that would be on the opposite side of the light source. It's like under the nose, under the eyelid area, because his brow would kind of be covering that. A little bit here on the side of the nose just to create some depth there. Along this side of the jawline, again to create that sort of depth. Maybe a little bit right there, inside of his ears. I'm going to use this same color in the light blue parts of the white. Going over that blue, that light blue with this gray to get a nice grayish blue. So that's one thing I like, is I can mix two colors to get a third color. So I'm going to use this in all the places that have the white, light blue, signifying the shadow of the white area, including the shield. All right, I want to darken that up, some spots up with some cool gray 2. Just going one shade darker, just for some areas that might be even further away from the light, like right down in there. right at the tops of that section there. Maybe right through here on the shield a little bit to kind of line up where I have the black there on the red. To kind of create a fade, a transition. Maybe right through the center of his chest there. Create a little more delineation. Maybe a little darker underneath his nose. Maybe on the bottom of his chin there. Maybe right across the bridge of his nose. Now for some cool gray 3. Gonna add this to the pouches. Even on the belt there a little bit. Now for the blue, because it's a darker color, I'm going to need to go a little darker gray. I'm going to go with a cool gray 4. Go right up underneath his chin there, because that would definitely cast a shadow. Maybe right under this part of the jawline. Right there like that. Some of the darker parts of his male here. Just dotting in some of this cool gray 4. Using some of this through the red as well. Right across the knuckles there. Now it's created some more depth here on the underside. So I'm putting the application here at the bottom of the glove and then pulling away and letting it kind of feather texture to get a nice gradation there. A little bit here on the fingers and knuckles on the opposite side, the bottom sides. Pull some of this cool gray down through his shield. Reflecting the environment around him, roughly. All right, so that gives us the basic Captain America colors. Okay, next up here is I want to add a background element. So this is what I do for, oftentimes I do for my pre-con commissions, is I don't draw an entire background on the board. I do kind of like a window, a portal, maybe. So what I like to do is figure out where I want the portal to start and stop. So I'm going to draw a vertical line, or right now it's horizontal, but when I turn it correctly, we'll see that's a vertical line right through here. Now, design-wise, I didn't want it right onto the center of his head, so I went just a little bit over, because I want the window to be right here. Let's do it the other side here. All right, so I've got the two sides. Now I'm penciling this pretty lightly so I can erase it easier later. I'm not gonna have a bottom to it. It's just gonna kind of fade out just like his pants, his legs do. But I do want a top to it. So I'm gonna put it right about there. don't want it too close to his head, but I don't want it too far away either. So I want it kind of a nice, it's almost like in the mid-range here, but just a little higher than mid-range from the top of the board to his head. So I chose to go right about there. So I can just erase those extra lines there. So now I've created a window. And so a situation Captain America might be in is maybe some sort of war-torn area. Maybe it's World War II, maybe it's somewhere else. Battle for New York. So I'm going to draw in, just pencil in some rubble. I'm going to render this all in colors and gray tones. At least that's the plan. Hopefully I can pull this trick off. So, so I just want to lighten up this border here a little bit because I don't want that graphite showing through too much. So just doing a little light erase. Y'all might not be able to see it so well, but I bet y'all can see it well enough. If not, you'll see it as as the colors start to take shape. Where's my triangle? Need it for some straight edges. All right, so I'm going to start with some warm gray 3. So I'm using the main color I'd be using for this portion of the rubble wall behind him. I'm not letting the gray touch his body because I'm going to have leave a white outline. At least that's what I'm going to shoot for. A white outline or a halo. I'm going to leave that around him. If it doesn't work out, I can always come in with white gel pen, but I'd prefer to not have to do that. And now I'm just going to start to color in here with the warm gray 3. Now what's fun about drawing rubble and texture is that you kind of want all the different directions. It doesn't have to be a smooth transition with the marker ink. We want it to look ragged and jaggedy and rubbly. Gotta get those eraser shavings out of the way. And then this wall just continues behind him, always leaving a little bit of a halo around. The perimeter of Captain America. There we go. Oh, I hope that last little bit, I hope this bit was on camera. I apologize if it wasn't. I was so into what I was doing, I wasn't paying attention. So sorry. And now for some cool gray 1. Just going every other color here for this fade down. So I color from the warm gray 3 into the white with the cool warm gray 1. If I said cool gray before, I meant to say warm gray, my apologies. Warm gray 1, and I'm creating a fade here. I'm just gonna let this kind of just, with the brush tip, let it fade down. There we go. I'm gonna use some of this cool gray, or I keep saying cool gray because I use cool gray so much it's easy. I default to, if my brain is thinking gray, it's going to say cool gray, even if I mean technically warm gray. Warm gray 1 through there. So we'll be adding more to the rubble here, but I want to kind of get what would be the sky up there. I'm going to utilize several different colors to achieve that. Just got to figure out which colors I want to use. I don't want it to be a bright blue sky sort of day. I want it to be a little more dreary because, you know, he's battling. You know, this is either, you know, we'll just say the battle for New York sort of situation, because the Avengers are always having big battles and adventures in New York City. That's where so much of the Marvel Universe takes place. So I'm using some BV34 here. BV34 to start to create a sky. So I'm really going to let this brush tip help create a wispy sky texture. Keeping in mind where the top of the rubble is. So just a little bit of something like that for step one. Now for some BV11, using some purples up in here. All right, now I'm going to come in with kind of it's almost like an orange. It's a YR01. It's almost like it's the sun's still trying to peek through the haze of whatever destruction has been going on here. Actually, it looks like a lovely sunset here in Southern California. That's what I've created. Okay, it's the battle for Los Angeles now. It's the battle for Los Angeles. I'm going to take some cool gray. And this time I actually do mean cool gray. Cool gray 1. I'm going to go over this, over all of this to kind of mute it out a little bit so that orange isn't quite so bright, so vibrant. A little too lovely of a day there. Need to dreary it up a bit. So that kind of mutes it out a bit. All right, so I'm going to use different shades of gray and some other colors here. Let's try some of this to just start to create the rubble texture. So I'm going to use some BG90. It's kind of this grayish green. Through the tops there. Some of this is real subtle. It's going to be real subtle. In that same BG9 family, the BG93. It's a bit darker. Just kind of creating some separation, some crags in the rubble. Let's come in with some darker shades of warm gray. How about some warm gray 5? Oops, not the chisel, need the brush. And just let it kind of dance across the page. Going to create just kind of maybe a little bit of more of a graphic element. We could call it a shadow, but something that just puts a little more dark behind Cap to make him pop. We could think of it as a shadow. We could also think of it as a design element. create shapes with by pressing down and then going light to make maybe some cracks. The more I press down, I can get a kind of a shadow chunk. Let's bring in some cool gray now. Let's come in with some cool gray 3. Just do that same thing. A lot of this is just making it up as I go along. Kind of have an idea of a kind of a craggy rock wall behind him. So I'm just letting the organic nature of the brush tip kind of do its thing. Gonna come in with some cool gray 5. Just repeating the process. Really want a nice delineation between the foreground rubble and this background wall. Oh, you know what I should do is create some rebar. Rebar can be really fun to draw. You all know what rebar is, right? The metal, what's that? Iron bars used in buildings to for the structure. So I'm just drawing in some, and they're going to be bent, of course, because it bent when the building collapsed. So I've got some. We'll put one right through there too. So now, I don't know if y'all can see the bars that I drew in there, but once I start going in with the marker, they'll come to life. Now, rebar has kind of a ridged texture, so going right down the guideline, just dap, 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 dap. Creates that ridged rebar texture. Oh, I'm using a cool gray 7, if I didn't state that before. So it really brings home that rubble, busted up building sort of vibe. And I can come in with some cool gray. I need a darker cool gray because I already started pretty dark there with a 7. Cool gray 9. And just put a little tiny dots on one side. Bottom side of the crossbar, choosing the left or our right hand side for the vertical bars. And then that creates some some shadow there, some depth to it. Let's see, let's bring in some neutral gray. Now, just to kind of dirty things up a little bit more. Actually, I think it'd be kind of nice to bring in some very light browns. So we'll bring in some of that E31. Yeah, E31 will be great. Okay, E31. And let's see, is there anything else? I think I need a little darker. I need a little darker. Some warm gray 7. Since I didn't pencil and ink the background, well, I guess I penciled, very roughly penciled in where the background was, but it's not inked like Cap is. So the background is definitely more of a subtle sort of thing. So I'm kind of giving the hint of inked lines by using the very tippy-top tip of this brush pen. The brush tip of this sketch marker, I should say. It's not really a brush pen, it's a sketch tip brush marker, and just kind of drawing in some edges to the wall. Maybe put some dots in here. Little texture dots, cracks. Yeah, definitely liking having some darker warm gray in here. It's warm gray 7. I'm just dotting in some little rubble texture dots. So it's starting to, really come together there. Now, is there anything else I want to do in there? I'm going to come in with some warm gray 8 for some even darker spots. Cool. So now what I want to do is rebar. We're not quite done. I'm going to take a Jelly Roll white gel pen, and we're going to dot in little highlights on each little ridge of the, and we're going to push the camera in there so you can really see the details since that's so small. So you see what I did there on that first one? We got more rebar to do. So since I put the shadow on one side, I'm going to put this little highlight on the other side. Shadow is on the bottom. Put the highlight on the top. Sorry about that, gang. Just adding those little details right there. Going to bring some of this into the rubble here. Kind of highlight the cracks some a little bit more. Just put a little bit down here, down low. Maybe put a little highlight on the snaps on his pouches. It's little tiny subtle details. Not going to get too crazy with it. Beef up the highlight. Oh, you know what? I want to add a little more blue to his eyes. Now that I see it up close, a little bit of a darker shade right up through here, a little B14. Nice. I want to put a teeny tiny bit of gray in the upper part of his eyeballs, right where the eyelid is covering, just to round out those eyeballs a little bit, give them a little depth. And this be kind of a fun little detail here. Put a little white along the ridge of his collar, separating his cowl from his armor. It's a real subtle sort of detail. Maybe run some of this highlight along the edge there a little bit. Oops, sorry, I was just doing that right up here on this part. Hopefully this part was on camera. So I'm gonna, like my Jelly Roll white gel pen for tiny details, but for bigger details, I like the Uniball Signo white gel pen. Gonna put some little dots right through there. Maybe it's reflecting some sort of light nearby. Okay, let's pull, forgot I pushed the camera in close to show the details of those backgrounds. So Let's put my autograph on here. And today's date that we finished this on. So today is the 12th September 2019. Oh, and I can say I can erase these guidelines. I don't need them anymore. And there we go. Captain America. Let's flip the camera around and we can sign off. Okay, hey, there we go. Captain America, all colored up. This was a lot of fun to draw. So much fun to draw. So glad I got to invite y'all to join me on this part of the journey here, the 3-part video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you enjoyed this video and the other videos, please leave me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and click that old subscribe button so you don't miss out on future art videos and art live streams. And thanks so much for joining me. I hope to be back real soon with another art video or video series. In the meantime, you can check out this video here or maybe that video there. And yeah, everybody, keep on drawing, keep having fun. I'm Todd Nauck. Take care.